Okay, chapter 2 of Atonement. Yes, it is now dark outside. Yes, this is how I spend my Friday nights. Hopefully one day you can be every bit as cool as me. So, chapter 2, this is the narrator telling things from Cecilia'S point of view. Remember, we're thinking that this is an omniscient narrator, just like in Dickens, who's dipping in and out of each character's point of view. It's only at the end that we realise that this is Bryony looking at things from each person's perspective. We get the scene here, or the first view of the scene, with the vase in the fountain where they break it and Cecilia jumps in to get the pieces. That becomes a key image that Bryony sees and misinterprets. So what we get early on towards the bottom of page 18 is the description of this fountain, which is that key thing that Bryony's looking at. Okay, and we get this muscular figure, and it says basically that he's only blown the water 2 inches high. It's meant to be a grand fountain, but it's actually a little bit pathetic. It's not working very well. Okay, bit of a metaphor, really, I think, for the decline in upper classes. Really, this is that long summer, but it's at the end of Bryony's childhood, and contextually, it's as these sort of old nuclear families are starting perhaps to lose their foothold, and I think that the fountain sums that up. About 7 or 8 lines down on page 19, we get Robbie on his knees weeding. He's literally lower than everybody else. Really emphasises his lower class. The fact, as it says at the end of that paragraph, that Mr. Tallis, the father of the family, is paying for Robbie to go to medical school now. So we get that real clear class system, but alongside the fountain, the idea that that's going to change. Okay. Towards the bottom of page 20, a great little word you can analyse about 6 lines up. We get a description of Emily Tallis nurturing her migraines. Nurturing is usually something done by mothers. Again, just like Dickens with Mrs. Gradgrind, there's that idea that these mothers are weak figures, and actually where they should be sort of nurturing the children, Emily Tallis is instead just nurturing her own status as a victim. Contextually, this is what society has done to women, and in terms of childhood, this is how she has managed almost to let Bryony become someone who makes a terrible mistake. About halfway down page 21, there's a reference to Richardson's Clarissa. McEwan puts in a lot of these references to other texts. Okay, Clarissa is a novel told through letters. Now, obviously, letters are crucial to Atonement. With that misread letter, there's also attempted rape in Clarissa. Okay, so a lot of the themes sort of come up there. McEwan's making that idea that it's only through stories really that we understand the world. That's brought up a little bit later, where Robbie and Cecilia feel that they're sort of talking in code through other books. Okay, McEwan's giving the idea we only make sense of the world through the stories we tell. Maybe we're not so different to Bryony after all. There's a mention of Robbie being in the Communist Party about halfway down page 22. Okay, so again, the idea of political upheaval at this time. Okay, due to the war coming, things are sort of changing. This sheltered childhood isn't going to stay because the world is changing around them all. We get the description of the vase then at the bottom of page 22. Remember, the vase is a great symbol to analyse, okay? Partly it sums up that weakening power of the Tallis family and other old nuclear families like that are crumbling. Remember, the dad's having an affair. We find out at the end that he marries again. But it's also a bit of a symbol for Robbie and Cecilia, whose love does fracture and fall apart and their relationship goes. You could also argue it's a symbol for the story itself. Bryony constructs this story and then she breaks it apart. She smashes it down, okay? Key feature of postmodernism, to look at stories, deconstruct them, which is what this becomes by the end. We get wildflowers about halfway down page 23. Cecilia's putting wildflowers in this vase. In hard times, Tom is biting the heads off roses, and these flowers symbol his lost youth, his lost childhood. Here there's a similar thing, isn't there? Cecilia, like the flowers, is wild, disordered, but that's sort of lost through Bryony's mistake. She loses that innocence, I guess. About halfway down page 24, there's that reference to the vase. If it had survived the war, then it could survive the Tallises. Again, the war and the Tallises are side by side. Okay, the war is a symbol of destruction, and Bryony also sort of destroys this family. Okay, the context kind of goes alongside her crime. The war kills Robbie, but so does Bryony's lies. And then There's a little bit here that we could look at, okay, halfway down page 26, reference to Paul Marshall, very early on, one of the first times he's mentioned, the chocolate millionaire, okay. He's getting rich, but he's part of this sort of new wave of money, okay, part of people who are getting rich through commerce and through belongings. And then what we get is the reference to Robbie and Cecilia, okay, she feels that everything he did was designed to distance her, okay. Later on we learn that's not the case at all, that actually there's this growing sort of love and awkwardness because of that love between Robbie and Cecilia. It's signalling to us that we're constantly reading and misreading our ideas, okay, that they think that they're talking in codes, that they are struggling to sort of express their true emotions, because naturally we understand things by telling stories. And then if you look at page 29, we have this vase actually breaking up, okay, about halfway down it splits into two triangular pieces which dropped into the water and tumbled to the bottom, okay. That's a key moment where that vase is fractured. Towards the end what we get is Cecilia reflecting on what that represents, basically, okay, that this has got history, okay, and Cecilia decides then to punish Robbie by jumping into the fountain and pulling it out herself, okay. She thinks, right, that's how we get my revenge on him, okay. Obviously that ends up causing all kinds of problems because Bryony sees it and misunderstands it. So again, it's about these signs being misinterpreted, okay, these things being done for one reason that are almost misunderstood by everyone else. She jumps in halfway down, okay, she holds her breath, she sank, leaving her hair fanned out across the surface. Drowning herself would be his punishment, okay. There's Ophelia is a character in Shakespeare's Hamlet who drowned herself, okay. There's lots of sort of paintings been done of this scene, okay. It's a classic sort of sacrificial innocent woman, and Cecilia's playing that here deliberately. She's thinking, right, that's how I'll punish Robbie. Okay, but then there's the idea that again, because of the stories, because of the things around us, that's what Bryony sees, and she misinterprets it. So McEwan's making the point that we all, particularly in childhood, play our part in these sorts of stories and these roles, and that's where the mistake happens. Okay, but as readers, we're going along with it as well. Robbie and Cecilia have read these books and are playing the same parts. Okay, so actually childhood and the art of reading are about misunderstanding and trying to make sense of the world around us in exactly the same way as Bryony does, and that's why we get this in again later on from Bryony's point of view. Okay, chapter 2, Atonement. Hope that helps.